turn around the camera right about now for you to see the audience. Thanks for Skyping in. We're very delighted to have you online. And I'm going to give the floor to you now to give your presentation and what you have to tell us.
Hello?
Yes.
Well, first of all, can you hear me now?
Yes!
Okay, I would like to say good morning to all of you. Which I suppose is good evening to those of you who are gathered there at the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung. First of all, let me say how much I regret not being able to join you in person. A previous commitment this weekend made it impossible for me to travel out of the country, but this brief visit via Skype is probably the next best thing. So thank you all for bearing with me, and let me hear you again. Organizers of the conference, and of course I know Veronika Zablocki, whom I had the great pleasure of teaching while she was studying at the University of Santa Cruz. So, decolonize the city. Let me thank all the organizers for inviting people to come together under this mandate. This mandate has serious implications for urban studies and other academic disciplines that are attempting to produce knowledge that can critically engage with the dangers of neoliberalism and potentially have transformative effects on our worlds. The imperative decolonize the city has equally important implications for social justice activism, and especially activism that attempts to stand up to racism and xenophobia and heteropatriarchy and class privilege and other modes of domination that have been exploited and intensified by the globalization of capital. Not a single city in the north, in the global north, can claim that it has not experienced racist assaults on immigrants or on people perceived as immigrants. We are all aware that areas of the planet that were previously white or perceived to be white can no longer make this claim to whiteness. And you know that there are countries in Europe whose governments and institutions continue to engage in practices of white supremacy, pretending that nothing has changed at all over the last decades. One of the principal consequences of economic globalization is that capital has acquired a dominance that is certainly causing Karl Marx and Rosa Luxemburg to roll over in their graves. If fluidity and movement characterize the 21st century, the travels of capital, the movements of commodities, just-in-time production, the excursions of knowledge, rather information that often masquerades as knowledge, we can say that virtually everything is in motion, and virtually everything is allowed to migrate across national borders. However, when human beings join these migrations, they are criminalized. They are subjected to a range of violences. They are the targets of xenophobic legislation, police practices, and their assailants assailants make use of historical modes of racism, and they add new and often more dangerous dimensions to these racisms. Cities around the world are saturated with these racisms and these violences. Those of us who devote our intellectual and activist energies to analyses of and struggles against the prison industrial complex are aware that one of its fastest growing sectors consists of immigrant detention facilities. Participants in this conference from the US, and of course I know Ruth Gilmore, Rachel Herzing, Isaac Ontiveros, and Ramon Gross-Foguel, I know that they are there among you. We know that immigration rights constitutes one of the major civil rights challenges in the US today. Repressive legislation in states like Arizona, Georgia, and Alabama condone what amounts to racial profiling. The legislation not only results in the direct repression of undocumented people, especially in urban areas, and I know that you are focusing on the city, but it creates a pervasive climate of fear that often causes women to avoid seeking assistance for serious health issues or to avoid seeking support to end intimate relationships that are unfortunately saturated with violence. Here in the United States, the worst legal attacks on undocumented people and on people assumed to be without documents is taking place in the state of Alabama. As someone who grew up in Alabama during the era of legal Jim Crow, I can say that the repression of the rights of immigrants represents the ghost of racial segregation, the 21st century instantiation of Jim Crow. Despite the repression inflicted on undocumented immigrants and those who are perceived as being possibly undocumented, large numbers of young people have revealed themselves to be undocumented. Here in the US, increasing numbers of youth are standing up and saying boldly and proudly, I am undocumented and I am unafraid. Just as we challenge the official policing of geographical borders and the conservative ideological policing of borders, our solidarity extends beyond borders. The US-Mexico wall is replicated in occupied Palestine, where the Israeli government has created the largest open-air prison in the world, on the West Bank and in Gaza. As the Palestinians challenge settler colonialism, we stand up with our sisters and brothers in the cities of Jerusalem, in Nablus, in Ramallah, in Hebron, and of course throughout Gaza. Indigenous and Afro-descended Colombians are challenging the government's policies of deterritorialization, which push them off their land into crowded slums in cities like Cali. Aboriginal people and their allies and cities across Australia have long challenged some of the world's most virulent expressions of racism. So this conference signals growing international solidarities that are calling for a more capacious notion of citizenship. All around the world, people are saying, no human being is illegal. Citizenship is not so much a matter of papers as it is a matter of commitment to struggle together as communities to create a world that is free of xenophobia, a world free of racism, a world from which poverty has been expunged and the availability of food is not subject to the demands of capitalist profit. And of course, a world without homophobia and transphobia, a world without the prison industrial complex, a world in which everyone learns how to respect the environment and all of the creatures, human and non-human, who inhabit our worlds. And so, I wish you success in all of your deliberations over this weekend, and I thank you very much for the opportunity to address you. Thank you.
Ella, as you can hear, everybody's delighted to have heard you so far. Do you still have some time for maybe questions from the audience, or? A little time. So, are there any questions from the audience? No questions from the audience? Well, yeah, I guess we are. Can you repeat what you said, Angela?
No, we cannot hear.
No, the sound is off, or the connection is really bad. Well, I guess in any case, I think we have to stop here then. Thanks a lot for your comments and remarks and your ideas, and that you shared them with us. Have a wonderful day, I guess. It just started, it ends over here. And thanks for joining us.